On a hot afternoon in June 1934, a 37-year-old police officer in El Paso, Texas, revved his motorcycle engine and took off after a speeding pickup truck. His name was Captain Alan Falby, an 11-year veteran of the force, proud, determined, and deeply respected by everyone who knew him. But that day, the chase he started on a sun-baked Texas road would change his life in a way no one could ever have predicted. The sirens were blaring, the lights were flashing, and Falby leaned forward into the wind as his Harley roared down Alameda Street. The pickup in front of him refused to slow down. Dust and heat waves rose from the pavement as he pushed the throttle harder. Then suddenly, the truck braked. Hard. Falby had only a split second to react. He swerved, slammed both brakes, but momentum carried him straight into the back of the truck. The impact threw him forward, metal shrieking, glass flying, and then silence. He hit the asphalt. His body rolled and slid across the rough road, sparks flying from the bike as it scraped beside him. When everything stopped, Captain Falby lay motionless in the middle of the road. His beloved motorcycle, the same one he'd spent years maintaining, now lay twisted and smoking on top of him, pinning both legs to the ground. He tried to move. Nothing. He could barely breathe. Every inhale scraped fire through his ribs. And then he looked down. Blood. A lot of it. A deep gash above his knee was pouring out onto the pavement, forming a dark pool that spread quickly beneath him. The pain hit next, hot, electric, unrelenting. He screamed for help. But no one answered. The truck he had been chasing? It was gone. Whoever had been inside knew he had crashed, and they didn't stop. Minutes passed like hours. Falby's vision began to blur. His heart pounded slower. He thought this might be it. But then footsteps. Two men appeared, running down the road toward him. They had seen the chase, seen the crash, and stopped their own car to help. They reached Falby and instantly took charge. No hesitation, no panic. Together, they lifted the 500-pound motorcycle off his crushed legs. One of the men gasped when he saw the wound. Falby's leg was split open above the knee, the artery likely severed. If they didn't stop the bleeding immediately, he'd be gone in minutes. The taller man knelt beside him. "Hang on, Captain," he said. "We've got you." He noticed Falby's police tie, part of his formal uniform. Without asking, the man carefully unknotted it and slipped it from around Falby's neck. Meanwhile, his friend ran to the side of the road, broke off a sturdy branch from a nearby tree, and sprinted back. They worked in perfect sync. The man with the tie wrapped it tightly around Falby's thigh, above the wound. The other man slid the stick through the fabric and began to twist. Once, twice. Each turn tightened the tie, cutting off the blood flow. It was painful, excruciating, but it worked. The bleeding slowed, then finally stopped. When the ambulance finally arrived, Falby was pale, half-conscious, and fading fast. Doctors at the hospital would later say he was 10 minutes away from bleeding out. 10 minutes. That's all that separated life from death. And those two strangers, whoever they were, had saved him. Falby would recover fully, though the scars on his leg never faded. And while he thanked the men profusely at the time, he never caught their names. In the chaos of sirens and pain, they simply disappeared back into the world. For years past. It's now December 12, 1938. The Depression is easing, and the roads are filled with cars and trucks again. Captain Alan Falby, now 41, is back on patrol. Same uniform, same calm discipline, and yes, the same motorcycle. That afternoon, he received a call over the radio. A car accident on Route 80. Serious injuries. Without hesitation, Falby flipped on his siren and sped toward the scene. When he arrived, a car had veered off the road and slammed head-on into a tree. The front end was crushed like paper. Inside, the driver was slumped over the wheel, motionless. Falby rushed in, yanked open the door, and carefully dragged the man out onto the grass. Blood was everywhere. The man's leg, torn open, same spot as Falby's injury years earlier, was bleeding fast. Falby's training kicked in. But so did his memory. He knew exactly what to do. He tore off his tie, grabbed a sturdy stick from the roadside, wrapped the fabric around the man's thigh, and twisted. Each turn tightened the makeshift tourniquet, cutting off the blood flow, just like before. Within moments, the bleeding stopped. The man was still unconscious, but breathing. Falby sat back, his heart racing, not from panic this time, but from something else. A strange, heavy feeling of déjà vu. It was as if the past 4 years had looped back on themselves, bringing him to this exact moment. Same road, same injury, same desperate fight to stop the bleeding. When paramedics arrived, they took over, loading the injured man into the ambulance. Falby stood nearby, watching, when suddenly his eyes narrowed. There was something about the man's face. The jawline, the shape of his nose. He looked familiar. Falby knelt down, leaned closer, and in that instant, his heart stopped. It was him. The man lying unconscious in front of him was the same man who had saved Falby's life 4 years earlier. The man's name was Alfred Smith. And just as Falby had been minutes from death back then, Alfred now was too, saved by the very same act he had once performed. The symmetry was almost unreal. 2 men, both police chases, both leg wounds, both improvised tourniquets, and each saving the other's life, years apart, in almost the exact same way. When Alfred Smith finally regained consciousness at the hospital and learned what had happened, he was speechless. He couldn't believe it either. News of their unbelievable reunion spread fast. The story was picked up by local papers, and before long, they were invited to appear together on Ripley's Believe It or Not, a show famous for sharing the world's strangest true stories. The 2 men stood side by side, smiling, grateful to be alive, each owing his life to the other. When the interviewer congratulated Captain Falby for his bravery, Falby just smiled and said one simple line that captured everything perfectly. One good tourniquet deserves another. Fate, coincidence, destiny, call it what you will. But sometimes, life has a way of looping back on itself and giving us a second chance to repay a debt we never thought we could. 2 men, 2 moments, 1 act of kindness that saved both their lives. And that's why this story, almost 90 years later, still stands as one of the most extraordinary coincidences in law enforcement history.
Put the tourniquet around my leg and saved my life when my motorcycle hit that truck. After all, one good tourniquet deserves another. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.